evangelized customer success. And some of these insights, probably will help you, and I'm around if you want to ask any questions. So obviously, some of the information here is, mandatory slide I have to put. So what we are seeing today in B2B SaaS and in general tech and software market is B2B growth in B2B SaaS is pretty hard in current scenario. Probably not for everyone, it depends on your category, but it is very clearly that the decisions go all the way to CEO or CFO for making a SaaS purchase. NRR and retention is a key driver for growth, and I will probably dwell more into this in a couple of slides. Expansion revenue from your existing customers is very key for your growth. Especially when you customers are early adopters, you want to cross-sell more products, upsell more products, or drive more license usage, and that's a critical factor. What we see is slight but mild uptick in the net new ARR business. I have to say that last 1 year it was slightly subdued. But the good news is Indian B2B SaaS outlook is quite bullish. Now, I don't know which markets you serve to, but the adoption of SaaS in Indian businesses is still compared to, I'm not talking about just SaaS and tech, what are your market segments, is still very low. So that's a very good plus point for the Indian B2B market. And this is a slide, there was a conference in June, and if you really see what has happened over the years, the tech valuations are down, we all know that. And basically both on the internet stocks and software stocks. And growth is harder in the current climate. This was a dip during COVID. Obviously, everyone became very cautious during COVID, and once we came out of COVID, and this is 68 cloud companies in terms of context, but the last 1 year, the growth has actually seen massive reversal. So when you talk to investors or CEOs of the company, there are many metrics which we follow for valuations or to see the market, how they're valued, or how the your target market is. There is a we talk about these numbers like ARR, employees, ARR per customer. It has very low correlation in terms of efficiency of the company or measuring the efficiency of the company. And then medium relation is, the rule of 40 that comes into play. Not the rule of 40 where your growth is 80% and your EBITDA is minus 40. Valuations, we expect, EBITDA possibly near cash flow positive, but, your growth plus EBITDA should be rule of 40. It used to be rule of 20, 30, 40, and now we are also talking about rule of 50. But these few factors, high correlation, what drives the value? One of them is free cash flow, revenue or ARR growth. I'm sure all of you in this category are looking for your net retention is where every CEO and CFO, this is a very tweet which went viral from Nick, where he predicted that every CFO and CEO right now have a spreadsheet. And if your software is not above that line in the top 10, you're probably going to see a churn. And, and customer success is the key to ensure that you stay above the line. So we did a survey, I think this was 4 months ago, to investors and CEOs, and these investors are typically VCs and PE firms, mix of 50-50, and CEOs of B2B SaaS and tech companies. So the questions were asked, what is the most important metric in their organization when they look at growth? And as you see, rule of 40, gross margins were important. but the GRR and NRR, I think, is pretty important in this thing. Bookings growth, people do realize that the next few quarters booking growth is going to be hard. So, investors do realize that, we are all operating in a tough environment. And that's why, these metrics become very critically. And we also asked, which are the areas where the biggest cuts would happen in terms of spending, and obviously marketing, sales, because, when bookings are less, you probably have overcapacity there. But customer success was the least, which was very heartening to know, for us at least in our market, which means there are buyers out there. Same metric, when the one I showed earlier was from investors' perspective, this is from the CEO's perspective. Again here, for CEOs, net retention, free cash flow, EBITDA, these are the most important drivers. And if the CEOs were to cut spending, the least focus will be on customer success. And what is all drive to? Obviously, we have built a durable playbook which is very relevant in the current times. So we call it, our durable growth playbook. You can go to our website, download. There are webinars over there. I'll briefly touch upon that. One, no surprises. So what does it really mean? That you have a very solid risk management in your process built in. You should not be blindsided by any churns, because some churns, it happens. They're unexpected. But build a very solid risk management process. Keep the customer in customer success. At the end of the day, the person, encourage them, provide empathy, and build a community around. So if you really look at Gainsight, build a very large customer success community, because that job market was just evolving, and our buyers are basically chief customer officers, post-sales organizations. So community in focus, go on the offense, and this is a very key term which we are seeing. There has to be a very tight integration between sales and the CS teams. So basically, account planning and your success planning, you have to talk to each other all the time. Scale through digital, and we talk about customer success, but I think with digital, with the technology which is available, it is much more efficient to use your digital touch points to reach not just your customers, but your end users actually. Grow through product, and engineering product will be shipping out a lot of new features. It is important that as those features are being adopted, being used. So what are the adoption metrics? Which features are being used? How is the customer journey through your platform? Maybe they're not even touching some pieces of the software, and you want to reduce the investment on that. And finally, human first. This is a term which Gainsight coined, win in business while being human first. At the time, we call about empathy. Empathy to even customers who are churning. Because at some point in time, you will realize in the journey, many customers churn. And if you give them a good farewell, we see 50% of them coming back. And we have seen that. Customers churn because there is a pricing pressure, because there is sponsor change, but things come around. 2-3 years, and if you have given a very good experience, even when they churn, they know that they're well taken care. So I said prioritize net retention, and this is the metrics which we are seeing across the business. Obviously, a lot of, at your stage, you want to acquire new customers. Net new ARR is a big focus, but acquiring new customers is important, but as much as retention is all the more important, because data has told that NRR focus can deliver 20% growth every year. Where does digital come into play? We talk about a lot on customer success. And the why. One of the biggest, I think there was a question on how to talk to my CFO to invest in customer success teams, how to scale them, because you can't throw people at the problem. You will be asked question about every headcount. So that is where digital comes into play, where you are able to achieve greater efficiency and profitability by using digital motions. Now, not completely digital, which I'll show you in the next slides. This clearly differentiates between you and your competitors. It basically allows your current customer success teams to scale without adding much capacity. There are some motions around that which you have to follow. And obviously, digital is also personalizations. You are not just able to address the key stakeholders, because if you have a customer success team, probably they are not able to reach all your users. They are probably only able to use the sponsors and few buyers or few key adoption champions there. But out there, there are probably many users who are using your software, and you can't possibly reach them without being digital. Again, personalization. When someone receives details with some personalization inbuilt into that, they are more likely to read it and go through those things as compared to a generic email which you send. And we have a lot of data about users, how they use the system. If you are capturing that, you are able to use the digital motion to able to personalize these messages. So basically, again, why digital? Basically, it allows you for durable growth. You have to invest less on human capacity in order to scale your customer success function. It's not that it is still a lot of human interaction will be needed, but you have to basically mix it with that. So what we are seeing is industry really shifting to that. If you see 67% users, okay, 67% of users prefer self-service over human interaction, because, okay, one more meeting, okay, interaction with your customer success team, your support teams, your post-sales teams. So whether it is onboarding, implementation, or support. What is actually digital customer success? I think, what does it involve? And this is our view of looking at it. And basically, we call it the new superpowers. So it elevates the customer experience. As I said, it just not allows you to use your key stakeholders, but all users. And basically, you can, every CS team can quadruple their impact by using that. And how do we do it? We do it with a combination of both digital and human touch. You orchestrate the whole process through your customer journey, starting from what are the things you can do using digital experience. Maybe the onboarding, maybe the in-app product guidance. As soon as people log into your product, there is an in-app guide which takes them through different cases. You create community forums, self-learning content, webinars, and you can track these things. Whereas with humans, also this allows humans to scale. Obviously, when it comes to advocacy, expansion, you will need people to drive that. But you can mix them, and that is the key. Again, we talked about the whole user onboarding can be reimagined with digital touch. Imagine, on day one, you receive an email, how you should use the system. I think we have to learn from B2C here. In B2C, there is a lot of focus on, user onboarding. That's the key matter. So do you have a digital hub or something where you say, get started, you give help, your product documentation. It should not happen that they are going to 10 different sites to see all this information. And that's very common. We say technology was always there, but what we are clearly seeing, that technology was being abused in a way that a user had to go 10 or 12 different places to be able to see the information, and that you want to bring it into a hub. With digital, you can reach out to all your users because you have their data. You have how they're using your system. And if you're not doing that, then start doing that. You have to know which users are logging into your systems, how much time they are spending, which features they are using, where they are clicking. That's very key. Mix that with the human interaction. I think I covered that. As I said, mid-market CS, enterprise CMS, you have 1:2. I mean, you will have, if you are customer success team, you have ratios. Depending on your customer segmentation, you probably want, high touch customers. But this whole notion of high touch, low touch, mid touch is a very myriad. It's no longer needed. I think we call it digital touch. Every customer, whether they are small or big, they should get equal attention. And digital makes it possible. So which are the ones where you can start first? Obviously, the middle layer, where you can use digital more and more is onboarding first few days. You have to very carefully on hold, because this decides the adoption, outcomes, and ultimately the value realization. This is where you have to implement your digital motions, and many users are doing it. You cannot completely put people on this problem, because then you will need a massive amount of people for onboarding your customers or anything. There are a few things we are doing these days: digital QBRs, or digital business reviews. We are sending that information first, and then if needed, we do the QBRs. Advocacy, and if the usage data goes less, obviously you do a digital customer journey. These are some of the things. Basically, digital provides, I would say, from being a reactive to a proactive organization. When we started with the journey, we said, customer success is about retention, renewal, churn. But what we are clearly seeing is, that the orgs are evolving. The whole post-sales org, it's not just about customer success, it's about advocacy, it's about support, it's about training, it's about the professional services which you build, and then tying up two different personas in the organizations, right from your sales organization to the product. And account management, account planning, these are new orgs which are evolving, and digital makes it possible. Again, I said reactive to proactive, be predictive. That is what the three P's for the digital success maturity. And obviously, it's prime time for AI, because when you do customer success, you're having a lot of data. You have, and we are very excited for it, because the kind of data which we have about our customers, if we are able to provide, for example, if you are getting into a meeting and it sends you a snapshot, instead of going through different what this customer is doing, about the history, all the risks and all those things, generative AI makes that possible, given the summarization capabilities it has. And so in customer success, at some point in time, you will implement generative AI, maybe not now, maybe 2 years from now, 1 year from now, depending on where you are, what tools you are doing. One is the efficiency. We see that you are better prepared for the meetings, better email. When you want to respond to a risk situation, generative AI helps you to be much efficient there. And in generally, the GPT-driven search, or if you are building GPT-driven communities, they are far more elevate the user experience. So overall, it makes it easier to manage the situation. And science-driven customer success, allows us to be better artists. And generative AI will make that quality, unless, of course, at some point in time, we want to be all human until the robots take over the world. At some point in time, I hope that won't happen very soon. So some of the links, this I think text will be available on the Science Insider if you want to go deeper. And there's a lot of content, so I didn't go very deep into it. I tried to tune it to this audience, which has already seen product market fit and are ready for the next growth phase.
Today, as Anil mentioned this, everyone knows how to register for a platform, go through the features, read through the features, understand whether there is any direct parity in terms of what they want. But in terms of customer success, today I haven't churned 3 accounts that we're using, because the customer success is really good.
with the digital QBRs, you are able to, in the customer journey, put information and send it to your audience well in advance so that they are prepared. They are prepared with their questions, their answers. You are able to send the whole QBR and the outcomes using those motions. It is still you have to add a human to that because by the way, it is possible for many of your large customers, they don't want a meeting. They just want the information. They said, okay, we are doing well, another meeting. I don't want to go through a 1 hour QBR where you tell me what I'm doing. Provide them with, how their adoption is, which users are using, which are not using, what you are seeing in terms of, the features being used. Is it giving them outcomes? That is possible through digital.
Agree. Also, one other experience that you guys might want to check, if you have tools in your tech stack or you're selling your tools to certain companies, see how long it takes to reach your support questions, because as he mentioned, there's more than one source and not all source has the exact information that you're looking for. You'll always end up looking for a person. And if there's a CSM, there's a go-to person, that entire engagement happens much more smoother, very little friction. I don't have to go with a bad taste trying to find a solution. Right? So that's the exact use case that we face on a regular basis. And again, that diverses to every different department, every different use case.
Yeah. So as you have reached this scale, right, if you really, suppose I am a customer, let me give me my experience. Obviously, during the sales cycle, I met the AEs and pre-sales team. One customer is actually dealing with probably 7 or 8 touch points. And every individual has a different function and the experience is different. The digital brings it all together to have a common experience, basically reduce that touch points and so many people in the journey. In India, there is only slight difference. The CSM team we have are more also kind of architects who are able to kind of help get on a call with the customer, configure systems, configure few things, that happens a lot.
The second question I have is, how do you at Gainsight arrive at, hey, for X number of clients or accounts, I will sort of have, of course, there are market segmentations and so on, but how do you arrive at that?
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the year, we decide what are the NRR and GRR targets we want to achieve. And for every $100, probably you won't get more than $10 to spend on customer success. So you have to then decide on the account ratios. But we have come up with a concept called pooled CSMs. I don't know if you have heard about it. So it's not about one person serving 10 customers. It's about a pool of probably 5 people doing 60 customers. And when you have pooled CSMs, to have the equal experience, digital customer success comes into play. And typically, you $10, $11. I think Murli was talking about $1.
Yeah.
You can't do customer success with $1. That's almost impossible. Yeah, that's the kind of ratios you have to do. Many times we get into this notion that my large customers will require people. You need to have 1:1 account. That doesn't work. Large customers are more than sufficient most of the time. Because they have teams who can drive adoption within them. So, you just have to, that factor you have to decide.
Industry yet, because I hope that's what I wanted to know your opinion. I'm not
Yes.
sure. A lot of companies do it. Most of them don't do actually, I think.
Yeah.
but what are best practices around it? I think that will
So
help.
obviously, incentivization of sales is pretty common, commissions in every sale, and it works different between regular software and SaaS because that. But, it depends on who is driving your expansion, cross-sell and that. So for expansion and cross-sell, if it is your customer success teams, then you have to incentivize them because it's equivalent to new revenue which they are getting in. At the same time, for renewals, the ratio is less because that's their core job. But we do have a variable pay based on the GRR and NR target, the segment they are happening. If they are achieving this, you can go more than 100% of their variable pay. But it's a band. It's not that every customer you renew, you get some incentive. Because that's part of your core job. At least the CS team is responsible for NRR, which means they are responsible for driving the upsell and cross-sell motions with the customers. The sales only comes in when the contract is
New business.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, so there are some metrics like, the NPS scores and, they have to meet those targets. It's a very, something which is still evolving in customer success, I have to say. We have seen organizations where CSMs are almost treated on par with sales, where they get commission for every renewal, but at Gainsight, we have not seen that, and in our customer base, we don't see that.
Right.
Obviously, this is a new profession. It's probably a youngest profession, if I were to say, probably has only come into play in India at least 5 years.
Last 5 years, yes.
And it's a it's a profession where mainly focused on renewal management,
Yeah.
churn, keeping customers happy, and it is not. It's the biggest driver we see is a lot of people from customer support moving into this, or from accounts executives moving into customer success.
Obviously, there's a relationship quotient which drives a lot of transactions which happens between customer and CSM. But when you talk about pool, there's
In the pool PL concept, we also have to give growth to the CS team members that they become there. So a leader has probably 5 people under him, so there are total
Right.
6. The leader is also an individual contributor.
Yeah.
And they are at least tracking that someone is responding, someone
Yeah.
is doing. And the ratios is typically given by which segment you are.
Yeah.
I can't comment on that. What we see is we sell a lot to SaaS companies. And SaaS companies are, since they are also SaaS.
We use Gainsight.
Okay. You are from?
Aptio.
Okay. We use Aptio as well. we are both part of Vista Portco.
Yeah.
Portco. Aptio was recently acquired by IBM. So, so pooled CSMs, we are generally doing, almost higher ratio than 1:2.
Yeah.
So, because, the coverage becomes very important.
Correct.
That concept. It just evolved. We started this pooled CSM just this year.
So maybe we'll reach out
Yeah,
for more
sure.
learnings. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please have other conversations offline as well.